Mara Whitfield found a portrait that should not have existed. 4 of the faces belonged to the world that took the picture. The 5th face could have gotten them bored, warped at the corners from a century of Mississippi heat. In the lower right corner, a faded stamp read, Leland Portrait Rooms, Cypress County. In the center sat a black couple in Sunday clothing. The man had broad shoulders, rough carpenter's hands, and the kind of stillness men learned when too much attention. Written on the back in pencil was Isaiah Bell. Beside him sat his wife Lottie. She wore a high-collared dark dress, buttoned to the throat, her hair pinned. Looked soft. They looked steady. The way a woman looks when she has already made the hardest decision in the room. 2 black girls stood beside them. Naomi, 11, stood a small white boy with a pale face, sandy hair, and one hand tucked into Isaiah Bell's open palm. Not behind him, not beside him like a visitor. In his hand, a wool coat too warm for April, the sleeves turned back twice. A wooden whistle hung from his neck on a piece of string. Mara turned the photograph over. 5 names, then one line beneath them, written in the same faded hand. Remember, he was ours. Mara was 41 years old, an archival conservator from St. Louis, hired to sort through flood-damaged courthouse records before they were moved to a new storage room. Most of the day had been ordinary. Tax rolls, land plats, probate that smelled like mildew and old ink. Then, at 5:18 in the afternoon, with the building lights already clicking off one hallway at a time, she had pulled out insurance maps. And now she was staring at a family portrait from 1919 Mississippi that every rule of that world said should not exist. A black family, no explanation, only a father's hand wrapped around the boy's fingers. Mara carried the photograph to the front desk where the annex caretaker, Mrs. Hattie Coleman, was 78, small, sharp-eyed, and known for remembering where every family in Cypress County used to sit in church. Mara laid the portrait gently on the counter. Coleman looked once. Then she looked away. It was not surprise. It was recognition. That's Isaiah and Lottie Bell, she said quietly. Had a place off in coffins. She delivered babies when the doctor wouldn't cross the quarter. And the boy? Mrs. Coleman's mouth tightened. People used to whisper about a white child. Or worse. Mara waited. Mrs. Coleman glanced toward the dark hallway, as if the old building might still be listening. There's one person left who might tell Grant. She lives at Rose Hill Home, over in Clarksdale. 96 years old and mean enough to outlive everybody who tried to hush her. She pushed the photograph back to the time somebody stopped hiding from it. That night, in a motel room beside Highway 61, Mara spread her notes across the bed and opened the 1920 census. Minutes. Black male, age 36, occupation, carpenter, home, rented house on Blackwater Road. Lottie Bell, age 31, laundress. Pearl Bell, age 9. No son, no Elias. Mara checked the county birth index for every Elias born between 1911 and 1914. 3. One was living with his parents on a farm outside Vicksburg. None belonged to the boy in the portrait. Then she searched the newspaper reels. For 2 hours, nothing. Crop announcement for a stolen mule. Cotton prices, marriage licenses. Then, on March 3, 1919, she found a short article buried on page 4. Andrew Reed, 32, and his wife Helen, 28, had died when a stovepipe caught the wall of a 2-room boarding house near the rail spur. A son survived. The article did not print the child's name. It only said he had been placed under county supervision. Mara felt the room narrow. The portrait, barely 5 weeks after the fire. She kept searching. The phrase county supervision led her to a 1921 state inspection report on the Cypress County children assigned field labor. Children under 8 used for laundry and kitchen work. Illnesses unreported. Punishment by food denial. 3 children released to no addresses and no proof they were alive. Mara read the report twice. Then she looked back at the photograph. The white boy in Isaiah Bell's hand had not been pulled away from a place children entered with names, and sometimes left without them. At 10 the next morning, Mara drove to Rose Hill Home. Odell's fan turned slowly and uselessly above the heat. She was thin, dark-skinned, and wrapped in a pale blue cardigan despite the June weather. Her hair warmed a face that had not softened with age. "You the woman with the picture," Odessa said. "Not a question." Mara sat down and placed the photograph between them. Odessa looked for the boy, then moved to Lottie's face. "Oh, Miss Lottie," she whispered. Mara's voice dropped. "I knew of them. I was a little child, but my mother washed with Lottie." "What danger?" Odessa looked at Mara sharply. "Baby, this was 1919 Mississippi. A black man could be killed for touching the wrong door house, and let that boy call him Papa." Mara did not interrupt. Odessa leaned back. "The Reed boys' people died in that fire. Poor white folks, no land. County men were coming to take him to the children's home. Everybody knew what happened there. They fed little ones like animals and worked them like grown hands. How did Isaiah Road? Saw the child sitting outside the burned room with soot in his hair. Boy hadn't made a sound, not one sound, just holding a little tin cup. Liza closed her eyes. Isaiah went home and told Lottie. She said, "Not that place, that was all. Not that place." So they took him? In the dark, before the county went. How did they hide a white boy? They didn't hide him well, Odessa said. They hid him together. The black side of town knew. Church knew. Midwives knew. Lottie's sister's child from New Orleans, born light. Nobody believed it, but everybody repeated it. And the white people? White people didn't ask questions, unless for a while, the story held because the boy stayed close to the house, and because Isaiah Bell was useful. Folks needed coffins, porch steps, doors that shut. Knuckle. But the picture changed things. Why take it? Proof. Proof of what? That Elias belonged to somebody. Mara felt the sentence settle. Odessa, or if night riders came, or if somebody made that child disappear, he wanted one thing left behind that said, no. This boy had a family. This boy was loved. Tris Leland, white widow, ran the portrait room after her husband died. She could have ruined them with one word. Instead, she locked the front door, pulled nothing in her appointment book. Odessa's voice went colder. But by winter it was too dangerous. The Klan was waking up hard. Men started riding past Black with two deputies and asked Lottie why a white child had been seen in her yard. What happened? Odessa's eyes fixed on the window. My mother was there. The room seemed to go on floorboards beneath the pantry. The boy was wrapped in a quilt with her hand over his mouth, and he never made a sound. Sheriff walked the house. Isaiah stood outside or could hang him from his own sycamore. Odessa swallowed. After that, Reverend Sykes told them the Lord did not require a child to stay where love would get him killed. They won. Lottie's cousin, Hester Lane, lived in St. Louis. She worked in a packing house kitchen and rented 2 rooms above a tailor shop. Her husband, Walter, had one eye in a strike fight and did not scare easily. Elias went as Hester's nephew. He was 8 years old. Lottie packed his coat, 2 shirts, a Bible page from River Cedar. Lottie cried until she had no voice, Odessa said. Isaiah did not cry where people could see. But my mother said he sat on the back step after his hand like it was still holding the boy's fingers. Mara's throat tightened. Did Elias remember them? Odessa's face changed. Not quite a smile. It was. Not to the Bells. Too dangerous. To the church. Reverend Sykes read them out loud in the back room, then locked them away. Do those letters still exist at the photograph? Go ask Shiloh Baptist why they still keep a fireproof box under the pulpit. Shiloh Baptist Church stood on a low rise above Blackwater boards, its bell tower leaning just enough to look tired but not defeated. Mara arrived that afternoon and met Reverend Calvin Price, a broad man in his 60s, like it had been built for both prayer and warning. When Mara showed him the portrait, he did not pretend surprise. He only said, "So it finally came out of the courthouse." We did not know where the photograph had gone. Reverend Price led her into a side room behind the sanctuary. On a shelf above old hymnals sat a black metal box where ledgers, envelopes, and one cloth packet tied with twine. The first ledger entry was dated April 13, 1919. Isaiah and Lottie Bell came to Elias Reed. Special prayer offered for protection. Church instructed to speak one story only. Mara read the line again. Ward Elias Reed. The church had written June 1919, collection taken for Bell household. Child requires shoes. October 1919, men observed watching Blackwater rocks. Sitter Lottie asks counsel. Fear growing. Child old enough to be noticed. February 1921, Elias sent north under care of Hester. God for safe departure. Then Reverend Price untied the cloth packet. Inside were 4 letters. The oldest was written in a child's uneven hand. Dear Reverend, my letters. I got to St. Louis, safe. The streetcars are loud. I miss Mama Lottie and Papa Isaiah and Naomi and Pearl. Please tell Papa Isaiah I still have my whistle. I remember my house in Mississippi. I remember the fires some, but I remember them more. Your friend? Mara read the last line twice. I remember the fires some, but not the scandal people might have made of the photograph. Not the impossibility of a white child in a black family portrait. Not even the danger. The center was this, taken by love. Mara photographed the records with Reverend Price's permission. Then she went back to St. Louis and began tracing Elias Reed. The city directories found Hester 18th Street. The 1930 census listed Walter Lane, printer, Hester Lane, cook, and one nephew, Elias Reed, age 17, born in Mississippi. A school secretary named Margaret Koenig, his occupation on the license. Mara smiled when she saw it. Isaiah had taught him more than survival. He had taught him how to build. Paper profile, no scandal, no public office. He worked for a cabinet shop, bought a narrow brick house in South St. Louis, raised 2 sons, paid taxes, 84 at the age of 71. His obituary said he was a devoted family man. It did not mention Mississippi. It did not mention Isaiah Bell. It did grandchildren. One name stood out. Grace Reed Miller, age 58. Public defender. Still in St. Louis. Mara wrote a careful message. Mrs. Miller, an archival conservator, and I have found historical records involving your grandfather, Elias Reed. They concern his early childhood in Mississippi and a family. I have documentation, including a 1919 portrait. I believe your family may not know this story. Grace answered the next morning. My grandfather said he had nightmares about smoke and would not sleep near a stove. If you have something real, I need to see it. They met at a quiet library table 3 days later. A yellow legal pad. She had gray at her temples, direct eyes, and the guarded posture of someone trained to distrust emotional stories until evidence stood up. The newspaper article, the children's home report, the census, the church ledger, the letters. Then she placed the portrait on the table. Grace looked at it and went, said, You recognize him? Grace nodded slowly. We have one picture of him as an adult with that same look around the mouth. She touched the boy's face, careful not to. Lottie Bell, their daughters Naomi and Pearl, they took him in after the fire. Grace looked up. A black family? Yes. In Mississippi? Yes. In 1919? Mara sat back, her eyes filled before her face changed. My grandfather was saved by a black family. He was raised by them for almost 2 years. They hid him when the cat did the secret. Then they sent him to Lottie's cousin in St. Louis when it became too dangerous. Grace covered her mouth. My father grew up white in this city. Something our family had always understood. And all this time, her voice broke. All this time, the reason any of us existed was because a black family risked every copy of Elias's letter. Grace read it silently. At the sentence about the whistle, she stopped. What whistle? Mara looked at her. Grace reached into her bag, shaking as she opened a photograph. It showed a small wooden whistle, dark with age, hanging in a shadow box beside a pair of old eyeglasses. My grandfather, where it came from, my father, said he held it whenever storms woke him. Mara stared at the screen. On the side of the whistle, barely visible, were 2 carved letters. For the Bell descendants took another month. Naomi Bell had married a railroad porter named Silas Carter and moved to Memphis during the Great Migration. Pearl Bell had school custodian and spent 40 years teaching children to read in a church basement because the county school had no books worth keeping. Naomi's granddaughter, 22 and living in Memphis. Pearl's grandson was Reverend Calvin Price of Shiloh Baptist. When Mara called Lenora, She did not even finish the first explanation. White boy. Mara went quiet. My grandmother used to say her parents had 3 children for a little while, Lenora continued. 2 by blood and 1 by the courage of God. Names could still do harm if the wrong people heard them. His name was Elias. Lenora whispered it like a prayer. Elias, Mara told her about Grace. The silence on that family should come home. 6 weeks later, on a humid Saturday morning, 2 families gathered inside Shiloh Baptist Church. The Bell descendants came from Memphis and the old county roads around Cypress. They filled the left side of the sanctuary with church fans, photo albums, and children too young to understand why they spoken. Grace Reed Miller came with her brother Paul, 2 cousins, her son, and 3 grandchildren. They carried no claim, only the wooden whistle. Reverend Price, enlarged and framed, it stood beside the black metal box that had guarded the letters for 100 years. The sanctuary was quiet except for the first. She held the whistle in both hands. My grandfather, Elias Reed, lived because Isaiah and Lottie Bell chose to see a child before they saw a carpenter. He married. He raised a family. He taught his children to keep their word and fix what they broke. We thought those values began with him. Now he was forced to leave behind. She turned toward the Bell family. I cannot repay what your ancestors did. There is no payment for that. But I can say this in front of every child. Again, tell our story without saying their names. Isaiah Bell, Lottie Bell, Naomi Bell, Pearl Bell. Grace's voice cracked on the last name, and Elias rose from the front pew. She was tall, with silver braids and a lace handkerchief folded in her fist. My grandmother Naomi remembered him, she said. She said he would not eat unless Lottie sat beside him, would wake up screaming if someone struck a match. Lenora looked at the portrait. Then one day Isaiah was planing cedar on the porch. Isaiah gave him a piece of wood and showed him how to blow across a notch. She smiled through tears. That was the first time Elias laughed. Grace lifted the whistle. Heirloom. As a voice that had traveled farther than anybody knew, Reverend Price opened the ledger and read the first entry aloud. Ward Elias Reed. Then he closed the book. Government reduced him to a surviving son. The county would have turned him into labor, but this church wrote down the truth. A ward, a child under care. A lot at the cost. After the service, the 2 families walked to the small cemetery behind the church. Isaiah and Lottie's graves had been nearly unreadable before they stood clean beneath a cedar tree. Grace placed the whistle between them for a moment. Then she picked it back up. This stayed with Elias all his life, she said. Families agreed the whistle would remain with the portrait and letters in Shiloh's archive, displayed once a year on April 13th, the Sunday after the photograph had been taken. That followed, the story spread carefully at first. Local paper, State Historical Journal, a university lecture, then a documentary crew, then classrooms. Some wanted to make it simple. Black family saves white child. Love conquers hate. Reverend Price refused that version. No, he said in one interview. Love did not white supremacy gentle. Isaiah and Lottie risked death because the system was cruel, not because the system was fading. Do not make their courage, said it another way. My family was allowed to forget. The Bell family had to remember carefully. That difference is part of the story. Together, the families created foster care. They did not make it grand. They made it useful. Rent deposits, work boots, textbooks, bus passes, emergency hotel rooms. When a 19-year-old said Bell would have understood that kind of help. Not speeches first, she said. A bed first, food first, a door that locks first. The old Bell house on Blackwater had taken too much, but the porch stones remained, half buried under vines. One afternoon, Mara stood there with Grace and Lenora, while a young historian signed. Here lived Isaiah and Lottie Bell, who sheltered Elias Reed 1919 to 1921. Grace read the line and shook her head. Shelter. Lenora looked over the field where the road curved toward the old rail spur. Maybe all the truest words are small. Shelter child, family, risk, love. Years later, the Baptists restored Fellowship Hall. School groups came to see it. The children always noticed the white boy first. Adults noticed Isaiah's hand again. The children would point and ask, "Why is he there?" And the guide would answer, "Because they would not let him be taken." Then the children would ask, "Was it allowed?" Then the room would go quiet in the way. Rooms go quiet when a child understands. Adults have built terrible rules. The portrait never stopped doing its work, pinning it away. A black father's hand around a white child's fingers, in a time when that gesture could be called a crime. A black mother's eyes fixed on a camera. Two black girls standing beside a brother the world would not let them keep. A white boy wearing a wooden whistle carved by the man who taught him to live after fire. Son to see the display. He was 6, the same age Elias had been. He stood before the photograph, staring at the little boy in the wool coat. Was he scared, he asked, she said. But not the whole time. He looked at Isaiah's hand, because they held him. Grace nodded, because they held him. That was the truth the photograph had carried, not an impossibility. Not a puzzle about who belonged where, a record of who refused to let a child disappear. Isaiah and Lottie Bell did not have permission. They had a room, a church, a dangerous secret, and enough courage to make all of it into shelter. The fifth face in the photograph was never the mystery. 4 other faces had been forced to hide, and at last, nobody had to hide it anymore.